Please help me. I need to get home.
When a desperate woman walked into his gas station at midnight counting pennies, David had no idea who she really was. His small act of kindness cost him his job, but 1 hour later, a Rolls Royce pulled up to his door and changed everything. Hi everyone, welcome to Heartfelt Tales 2. Let's get started. David was a 23-year-old man who worked the night shift at Sainsbury's gas station. Unlike his friends who partied on weekends, David worked extra hours to pay his way through college. He was studying business, hoping to own his own company someday. But for now, he was happy working the night shift because he got to know all the regular customers who came through. David had learned about helping others from his mom, who raised him alone while working 2 jobs. Some months were so tight, she'd count pennies just to put gas in their old car. Always help others when you can, she told him. You never know when you might be the one needing help. Those words stuck with David every single day. The gas station was right off the highway, and David had worked there for 3 years. He knew all the regulars, the truck drivers who needed their coffee exactly right, the nurses heading to night shift, who were always short on time, and the factory workers starting their early morning routes. David kept a little notebook of their stories and their kids' names, just like his mom used to do at the diner where she worked. People knew they could count on David, like the time old Mr. Stevens' car got declined, and David covered his gas until pension day. Or when Mrs. Thompson's car wouldn't start at 2 a.m., and Jake helped jumpstart it in the rain. He never made a big deal about these things. That's just who he was. Everything was fine until Sainsbury's got bought out by a big corporation last month. The new manager, Mr. Carter, was obsessed with profits. He put up cameras everywhere and made strict rules about no discounts or help for anyone, no matter what their situation. This is a business, he kept saying, not a charity. It was almost midnight on a cold October evening when a beat-up Honda pulled into the station. David noticed right away something wasn't right. The car was running on fumes, and the woman driving it looked exhausted. She was well-dressed, but seemed stressed, and there was a baby sleeping in the back seat. The woman, who looked to be in her late 30s, came inside holding her wallet tightly.
Hi. I need to get home to Birmingham, but I only have $15. How far will that get me?
David checked the gas prices.
$15 wouldn't even get you halfway there. How much do you need to get home?
$25 worth.
She said, her voice shaking.
But I've already tried 3 other stations. I just started this new job, and my first paycheck doesn't come until next week. I thought I had enough to get through, but...
David saw that same look his mom used to have when trying to figure out how to make it to payday. Without hesitation, he reached for his wallet.
Don't worry about it, he said. I'll cover the difference.
I can't let you do that.
She protested.
It's only $10, David smiled. Just pay it forward when you can.
David had just finished helping the woman with her gas when Mr. Carter stormed out of the back office. His face was red with anger as he watched the Honda drive away. What did you just do? Mr. Carter demanded, pointing at the security cameras. Did you just let someone underpay for gas?
Sir, she had a baby in the car.
David tried to explain.
She was trying to get home.
I don't care if she had 10 babies, Mr. Carter shouted. This isn't a charity. Did you pay the difference yourself?
Yes, sir, it was only $10.
That's theft of company time and services. Mr. Carter cut him off. You're fired. Clean out your locker and get out. 3 years of working every holiday, covering extra shifts, never being late, all gone because he helped someone in need. David thought about arguing, but remembered his mom's other saying. Your character shows most in how you handle unfair situations. Okay, David said quietly, taking off his name tag. But I do it again. Sometimes being human matters more than company policy. As David walked home in the cold, he wondered how he'd pay for next semester's books. But he kept thinking about that sleeping baby in the back seat. And somehow, he knew he'd made the right choice. David had barely been home an hour when he heard a car pull up outside his apartment. Through the window, he saw a Rolls Royce Phantom, the kind of car you only see in movies. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped out, followed by the woman from the gas station, now dressed in business clothes that probably cost more than David's car. The man knocked on David's door.
"Mr. David Bryn, I'm Lucas Mitch," he said when David opened the door. "And I believe you met my daughter Chloe earlier tonight."
David's mouth went dry. Everyone knew Lucas Mitch. He owned half the buildings downtown and ran one of the biggest companies in the state. David glanced between them, suddenly understanding why the woman had seemed so out of place in that old Honda.
Please come in.
David said, trying to keep his voice steady. He was very aware of his small apartment with its secondhand furniture and college textbooks stacked in the corner. "My daughter," Mr. Mitch began, "is a successful executive who spent the last 15 years focused only on business. Recently, I realized that in pursuing success, she, like many in our family, had lost touch with real people and real struggles." Chloe spoke up.
Dad made me take a 6-month leave from the company, no access to my accounts, living on minimum wage, driving that old car. He said I needed to remember what life was like for ordinary people before I could be trusted to run the family business.
David listened, still trying to process what was happening. His hands were shaking slightly as he offered them coffee in his chipped mugs. "That manager, Mr. Carter," Mr. Mitch continued. "He was right about one thing. Sainsbury's isn't a charity. That's why I bought it this evening. All 28 stations in the state." David nearly dropped his coffee mug. "You what?" "Mr. Carter has been fired," Mr. Carter said. "And I'd like to offer you your job back, but not as a night shift worker. I want you to manage that station with a proper salary and benefits. Show me how to run a business that makes profit while keeping its humanity." David sat down hard on his old couch. "I don't understand," he said. "All this because I helped with $10 of gas." Chloe smiled.
No, because you helped without knowing who I was. Because you did it even though it cost you your job. That's the kind of person we need running our businesses.
Within a month, David had doubled the station's profits while starting a program to help genuine families in need. They set up a system where customers could pay it forward, leaving extra money for people who came up short. Every case was carefully verified to prevent abuse, but no one with a real need was ever turned away. Other stations started copying the program, and soon it spread across the state. Today, 5 years later, David runs all of Sainsbury's stations in the eastern part of the state. The Pay It Forward program has helped thousands of families, and their profits are higher than ever. Turns out, when you help people in need, they become your most loyal customers. Chloe Mitch did inherit her father's company, but she still stops by David's original station sometimes. She says that 6-month test changed her whole approach to business. "That night taught me more about business than 15 years in corporate offices," she often says. "Profit matters, but people matter more." David's office still has the receipt from that $10 gas purchase, framed next to a picture of him and his mom, who now doesn't have to work 2 jobs anymore. Every new employee at Sainsbury's hears the story during training. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness have the biggest impact. David tells them, "You never know who's watching, but more importantly, you never know whose life you might change." Mr. Carter now works at a car wash across town. People say he gives free air fresheners to customers who seem to be having a rough day. Maybe he learned something too. David still works the occasional night shift, just to stay connected with the customers. "My mom always said to help others when you can," he tells people. Turns out she was right about everything.